All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Will Wingfield, Fire for Effect Weapon Systems. We had a Colt Mustang XSP come in for some modifications. The modifications we did, we put some new sights on it. Just a word to the wise, if you decide to change out your sights, be advised you are going to need to shape the sights. This customer wanted to go with some excess big dots, and with a little bit of stoning, they fit right in, came out pretty nice. Other modifications, we did do a full stipple on the grip, and he wanted a little bit of custom paint on the frame. He didn't want it on the slide. We also swapped out the plastic trigger that came on the gun with an aluminum trigger, purchased through Brownells. And as far as the disassembly, I didn't catch a video of the disassembly, but I am going to try and give you a video of the reassembly. You've got a couple little trick spots. We did not take down the fire control group any more than this. The one thing I will warn you about is if you notice, you have a small spring right here, and it's basically wedged into a channel. If that pops out of there, it would be easy to lose. Once you find it, this is how it goes back in. Straight portion at the top of the fire control group, wraps around, and what it does is it places this piece in a position to impinge on the slot that is in this pin once it comes through there. That's the purpose of that. So that's about the only trick spot with that little group. You'll notice that you have this mechanism as well as the sear here that float freely when not in place. So here's how I've figured out to reassemble this gun. Step one, we've got a clean frame here. We're going to take our spring assembly. You'll notice that your spring assembly has this plate with these two notches. If you look in here closely, you'll see that there is a notch molded into the frame right there and right there. So this assembly is going to go into the frame in this manner. We'll do that first. So just lay it in there and kind of lay it on there and let it lock on those two little lugs that are sticking out. Now this is probably the tricky spot of this assembly. This assembly has to go in and down. You'll see that there are bosses to this molding right here, right there, and right there. They are going to fit into inlets in the mold, or in the frame, right here and right here. So, what gets a little tricky is that A, you need to have this up, and your sear needs to be vertical. As you insert into here, you're going to get to a point where it doesn't want to seat. The problem is the trigger is not clearing the trigger hole, the trigger housing hole right here. So you have to push in on this just enough to get it to drop in. Once it drops in, then you should be able to, keeping pressure, downward pressure here, and this is the tricky part, keeping your sear and this mechanism vertical so that they engage the spring at the proper angle. You're going to pop it in, and it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I got to pop it out of there and try it again. My sear flipped around on me. What you're going to notice, what I should have pointed out, is on this sear you have what looks like a notch on one side and it's smooth on the other. The smooth side has to be pointed up towards the hammer. That's the actual sear that's engaging the hammer. This notched area is what's engaging your spring and the trigger bar mechanism here. Okay, so let's try that again. I'm going to try and keep these all nice and oriented the way I want. I haven't been taught a better way to do this. I kind of figured it out on my own. Again, my spring's in the right spot. I'm going to bring it in at the angle. Push my trigger back so it'll follow the hole. Okay, I'm watching my trigger mechanism here. Now I'm trying to hold it with my finger a little bit. Come on, baby, get in there. There we go. Alright, so it's popped in, and hopefully what you can see is that the sear is now pointed straight up, and it has tension against those springs. Okay? So that's critical. If you don't have that, this gun is never going to shoot. Alright, once we have that in place, let's see, what am I going to do next? Next, we're going to bring in, here's your hammer spring. Your hammer spring is going to fit down in a, there's an inlet in the bottom of the back of the grip here, a channel with a hole at the bottom. That hole at the bottom is where the bottom of this sits. So I just kind of drop it in there, and it drops right into position. It's right in there. Your hammer bar, this has got a curve to it. The curve here needs to go towards the back of the gun. So it's going to go like this. This stem, you're going to lace it through the spring that we align the sear on, and put it down through the center of the hammer spring that you just dropped down in there. So it should look something like that. And once you have it in place properly, you'll notice that if you push down with a screwdriver, it's got a spring tension against it. That's what you want it to do. Alright, now we've got that in place, we're going to bring in our hammer. Our hammer has a roll pin through it right here. You see it right there. That roll pin, that hammer roll pin right there, is going to sit in the little saddle that's at the top of this bar. The hole that retains the hammer right here is going to end up with this hollow pin moving through it. The hollow pin is going to be inserted from the frame's left to right side. So what we have to do first is put the roll pin in the little saddle. Then looking at it, I'm going to try and bring it down and hold it with one hand while I get the pin started. There we go. Once you get it started, since this frame has been sandblasted, Cerakoted, things are a little snugger. So I'm going to use snugger, I think that's a word. And I'm going to go ahead and tap down until it seats. And you should notice that that pin has a recess, so when it sits down proper depth, it's actually recessed below the surface of the frame. On the other side, it should be flush. So now, your hammer should work, okay? Don't want to do that if you can avoid it. Okay? That's correct. Next, I'm going to put in my safety. Now, the safety is a lot like the 1911 safeties in that it's got this little spring retention system. If you have it in this position, it will come all the way apart into these pieces. Spring, the little retention device, and the actual safety mechanism. What you want to do is put these together as so. Take your screwdriver, push it in, turn it all the way counterclockwise until it locks. Now, once you have it in that position, we're going to insert it from the frame's right side, get it in flush. Once we're flush, we're then going to engage our screwdriver. And you probably can't see it on the video, but if you look down in the frame, you can see that you turn it clockwise until it stops, release, and that locks it into the frame. And now it's properly placed. Alright, so now we've got all those mechanisms in place. What are we going to do next? Next, let's put in this pin. This pin is what's going to lock the trigger and fire control group into the frame itself. Again, this is going to have a pin that engages it. And as such, it can be a little stiff. I'm going to use a little bit of attitude adjustment here on it. Get it in nice and flush. Alright, that's looking good. Everything's locked in nice and tight. Camera still works. Mag release works. Alright, next we're going to put in our safety mechanism. The safety mechanism here, you have three little tiny parts. When you pull the gun apart, when you pull the safety off, this little detent was sticking out of this. You have a little tiny plug. That little tiny plug goes back in the pin here, small hole, small side first. You drop it in. As it falls through, you're going to take this spring with your plunger sticking up. You're going to push it all the way in. When you get it all the way loaded in, it should stick out of the gun about that much. On the other side, you should see the small end of the pin exiting the hole that was on the other side of the hollow pin. So that's now ready to be received. The safety, what I'm finding works best for me, is to take the smaller of the two halves, insert it in the right side. You notice that you have a cam. You have a cam inlet here. You're going to take that, insert it into the weapon, and you want it to come in flush. It's pointing basically straight up. You're now going to take this side. This post has got to engage the other side's receiver hole. You have a cam hole, just like the other side. Line them up so that they're the same direction. You're going to wiggle it around a little bit, and it's going to lock together. Once they both come in flush, it's assembled. Now we've got to swing that down and get it into place. So you're going to swing it down gently until it begins to hit our little plunger here that's sticking up. What I do is take a small flat blade screwdriver, small standard screwdriver. I'm going to carefully push this down, and I'm going to push my safety down, pulling the screwdriver out of the way, and there we go. You can now see it's shiny, the shiny plunger shining through the hole that's in the safety mechanism. So now this is in place, and when it's working properly, when it's in a safe position, I can't cock it, can't cock it. I can get it to cock and fire in the firing position. If I put it in the safe position, it won't cock, okay? All right, I'm going to leave it in the firing position so I can manipulate my hammer freely. Now at this point, I'm ready to put the slide on the frame. Let's reassemble the slide. Slide, again, the sights are just dovetailed, they just push out. This is a relatively simple assembly here. You've got your extractor. Your extractor rod goes in. I will warn you, the one place we did run into an issue on this gun, pulling the rear sight off, you have a spring that is holding the plunger here. That spring, when I got this sight off, was not present. It had left the building. I don't know where it went. I don't know what it looked like. I don't know anything about it. I had to manufacture one because I couldn't find one. Couldn't get hold of one. The way I manufactured it was I took an AR-15 safety detent spring and I trimmed it down, and it works beautifully. So, starting off with our extractor plunger, or extractor, excuse me, you'll notice that it has a channel here. That channel is going to be lined up with this channel. Just simply inserts, get it lined up. Here's our firing pin spring. I'm going to insert that in the hole in the center here. Once those are all in place, this is our retention plate. Retention plate doesn't appear to have any thing on it that would make me think it can only go one way. There's nothing special about it like on a 1911. It is curved on one side. That's the side that goes in. And I'm just going to drop it there like that. Now once I have it there, I'm going to use a small plunger, get this in place just like that. Once that's in place, now I need to load the barrel into the slide, recoil spring guide rod. A couple times I've noticed the spring wants to get hung up on the edge of the guide rod and the slide here. Make sure that hasn't happened for you. Once you have this in place, now we're going to take our frame, slide, and throw a little lube at this. Alright, this piece is going to need to be pushed down. I'm going to bring this in, and unlike a 1911, it lines up almost immediately and without any real effort. I'm going to place my pin in there, get started, and then I'm going to bring my slide back, line up my hole, push in, and we are in action. Work off that extra lube. Check safety. Can't rack it, can't fire it with safety on. Drop safety off, I can rack it. Safety comes up, cannot fire it. safety down, fires. All right. And that's all there is to the Mustang XSP Colt 380 Auto. This is Fire for Effect. We're out.